There is a fifth dimension.
A dimension of sound.
Damn it, Frank! We tell him to be quiet. I spilled my hot cup of Uranus again.
A dimension of sight.
Hey, Arch. I'm gonna sock you in the puss.
A dimension of mind.
Man Adams, is that you?
Next stop, the Twilight Zone.
All right, let's do this.
And can you believe that Green Book won Best Picture that year? Good movie.
Remo Williams. Remo Williams.
You know, Jacob.
It's over there in a stack.
Jacob, if it were me, I go back to the past and make Green Book never exist because it's the Twilight Zone, the fifth dimension. We could do that stuff in the fifth dimension in the Twilight Zone of a podcast.
While you're doing that, you're going back and making things not exist. Could you possibly do it to this?
Yes, I have it on my to kill list.
You know what's sad though? The fact that Wish makes that look good.
Yes, that is sad.
I'll
Actually,
give you that. Especially when this is manufactured. This is like a AI movie before AI. Like if this came out now, I'd say AI wrote and directed and animated this movie. Not that the animation looked bad, but I'd just say it was an AI movie. The second one had more heart than the first one.
Anyways, you know what else is terrible?
Not lean.
Really. Yeah, you're lean. Your strong arm is terrible. Guys, we're back. I've already said we're on the fifth dimension of Twilight Zone podcast, but we're back to talk another episode of this ye old podcast that is the fifth dimension. We're going to be talking about a new episode in the fourth season of Jacob's favorite season of all time of any show he's ever watched, because this is Jacob's favorite thing ever demanded by people in the world of things and places and dreams of Remo Williams. This is the fifth dimension of Twilight Zone podcast. I am your host, Nick. I'm here with Jacob and Triv. How the hell are you guys?
This is how we open it now.
I know. Just random nonsense bullshit. You might get Frozen one week. You might get Picasso the other week. You might get Remo Williams every single week. It all depends on how we feel, guys.
Fan 4-stick.
Fan 4-stick as well. Yeah. So anyways, how are you guys? It is Wednesday. It is the night.
Is it Wednesday?
It's
Tuesday.
It is Tuesday.
I'm scared. Trash got to go to the road on Wednesday, and I've got a long driveway, and it's getting late.
I can see Jacob just like he comes back, he's all like war torn and shit because he's just taking the trash to the curb, and
I've got two of them dumpsters, and you gotta drag those fuckers all the way to the road. I like doing it.
You live like a half mile from the road, right? Is that what you said?
No, it's not that far. You can see the road, but it's still a long driveway.
I mean, at least you get sight quiet, so you when people are coming up. So if like Michael Myers broke out of prison or something like that, you would have the time to protect yourself, wouldn't you?
Dude, nobody comes to my like people that come out here don't even get out of their cars because I have a giant German Shepherd that's jet black and looks like a wolf. She's a sissy, but still. And I have a pit bull who's this big, huge honking pit bull, but he's a little dope too. But they're always right outside. So anybody who comes to my house, like I have some people that come for my mom sometimes for nurses. They won't get out of the car. I have to come outside to get the dogs.
You go heel.
Yeah, my dogs aren't that smart. I just go get out. That's what I do. Oh
man. So yeah, Triv, how you doing? You look very well rested as your eyes are closed.
Yeah.
She's like stretch. I love your avatar when you stretch. It looks like you become like a giraffe.
Oh, someone has to.
Well, true. Anyways, so everything good, guys? We seen any new movies? Did we do anything? Triv, successful game show. Talking about anal raccoons and what else? Sure. Whatever else you were talking about.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So
making you laugh your ass off, I guess. Yeah, definitely.
See?
Anyway, yeah. So, guys, this is time. This has been fun. Let's go back in the past and reset everything, and then fail at doing that. Would it be like the butterfly effect, where every time we go back, like somebody's arm is exploded off, or like dissolved off, or they become a angsty teen, or someone's in jail. Eric Stoltz is in jail for pedophilism, stuff like that.
What?
Isn't he that way anyway?
No, you guys never seen the butterfly effect?
It's been a long time.
Was he in that?
Yeah, he was the father of the girl that Amy not Amy Ryan. What's her name? One from
Ashton Kutcher's in that.
Well, yeah. The one woman that was what's her name? Amy something.
Amy Adams?
She's like No, she was in like a road
Mm.
trip and come on, guys, you're supposed to know these things.
Ashton Kutcher.
I
This
know
is from our
nothing.
time. You
Mila
know
Kunis.
everything, Triv. Where is she? What's her name? Amy Smart.
Oh yeah, I know that name.
So yeah. So I guess enough of them shenanigans. Let's talk about season 4, episode 10. No Time Like the Past. Directed by Justus Addiss, written by Rod Serling, production code 4853. Original air date May 7th, 1963. But it stars Dana Andrews, Patricia Breslin, Robert F. Simon, Malcolm Atterbury, Marjorie Bennett. So this is the 11/22/63 meets 12 Monkeys meets Back to the Future episode, apparently, because this I enjoy this episode. I think it's very depressing. I think it's very melancholy. So it was a little bit of a chore to
You thought it was
watch,
depressing?
but still entertaining. This
What's
episode's
that?
completely depressing. It's like one of those things where you have the ability to do something, but you can't do anything. You had to watch people suffer
Well,
in the
isn't that just
process of it.
isn't that kind of the thing though? Like it took him doing that to understand that,
Yeah.
within the context of what you could do as a person.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
He
it's
learned a lesson.
depressing and melancholy. Well, true, but I'm saying it's melancholy in the sense of like the nature of what it does, like the nature of who he is and how he like when he goes back to 1881 and he kind of falls for this woman and he can't be with her because of
I wanted to look that
butterfly
up.
effect is a
I wanted
What's
to look
that?
at did that school okay, so all right.
That's cool.
oh
Did
yeah, I know what
actually.
you're
I was
talking
very
about.
confused. Okay, because when not to jump to the end, but when they first started talking about 4th of July and the school, I instantly was like, hey, I know that's what's gonna happen. That the thing, the thing that happens to the school is gonna happen. I knew that. And I was like, is that another historical thing? Is that a is that something that happened historically and I'm remembering that? Or am I remembering this episode just, not all the parts of it? Because I don't remember this episode, but I remembered that specifically. And I remembered exactly that was going to happen and all that. And like, oh yeah, he's going to do that. So I don't know if I'm remembering from when I watched this episode before or it was before the show even started to like allude to it. Because after a while, they kept on saying something about, July 4th. And the school, they're in there practicing. They said that like a bunch of times. But it was the first time they said it. I was like, it's going to catch on fire. I remember that. So was that like an actual historic thing? I meant to look that up.
I don't think so. I mean, it says the home. Well, actually, it says the Homeville Country School was built in 1823 and burned down July 3rd, 1881. But that might be like within the context of. It's a spoiler, so that might have just been in the context of the story.
Let's see. Tragedy strikes.
By the way,
1881, fire kills 17.
Was it real?
Patrick's order. Prayers go to. I don't know where this. I put Homeville School fire. This St. Patrick's Orphanage fire of 1881. Where was
St. Patrick's Orphanage?
Yeah, where the hell is that? That's an orphanage though. It's Patrick's Orphanage. Prayers. Jackson Street, Lincoln Avenue.
I mean, maybe it's a
city?
maybe it's a reference or homage to something like this that happened. Maybe not
I mean, it
necessarily.
doesn't say anything in the trivia about that, but that doesn't mean anything.
Huh. I don't know. I don't, maybe I'm remembering.
Oh,
the
so it's
actual-
Homeville, Indiana. Put in Homeville, Indiana.
I don't
Or
think
Homeville,
Homeville,
Indiana
Indiana is a
fire.
real place. To be honest, we should ask Kurt. Kurt
Indiana's
probably would
IN,
know.
right?
But the thing is, the rest
it
of them are real.
shows
So
No Time Like the Past.
Oh, well, there you go.
How?
Yeah, I
the
don't think
Phones
Homeville. I think a lot of times though, like a lot of cities that they put in these
Yeah.
episodes, a lot of times they're not real cities. So this may like allude to something that happened, like that school
it's a
fire
real
that we're
place.
talking about.
Homeville,
Huh?
Indiana. Wikipedia.
Oh,
A post office was established at Homeville in 1854 and remained in operation until it was discontinued in 1895. Homeville was platted in 1855 by Hiram Holmes and named for him. This is Holmesville. Sorry. Holmesville. No Homeville.
mm.
Homerville.
I mean, it's
No!
called Homeville, so I mean that might be a thing too. Anyways, so the idea of this story is a bootstrap paradox type story, an information loop type story, where you have the knowledge. This guy Paul has the knowledge of these situations, but I like the fact that you've seen this in other stories, other movies, whatever, where it always seems like time is trying to keep you from doing things like this.
It fights
So,
back.
for instance, yeah, exactly. It fights back, and I think it's interesting. I think that I love time travel things because of how insanely ridiculous they are. Back to the Future, 12 Monkeys,
Time cop.
Looper,
Quantum Leap.
Time Cop,
Time.
Quantum Leap. Actually, some of my favorite things are apparently
What was that
time
one
travel
movie?
stuff.
The one movie where the guy had the headphones in the whole time. Seen as like one of those accurate time travel movies ever. I know
Oh,
you've seen it,
Interstellar?
Nick. No.
No, you're talking about the one where it's like super like
the indie flick.
convoluted.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
I
an
know what you're
indie
talking about.
movie. It starts with like a P. It's what the fuck was the name of that movie? Oh well, that one.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. It's fuck.
It starts with a P. I'm
It's
pretty sure.
Phuck? Puck?
Fuck yeah.
Yeah, fuck you.
Fuck. Fuck you.
I mean, one of my favorite time travel movies, of course, is Looper.
Yeah,
How about
Better
Time?
than a Youper.
A Youper. About Time, Live Free, Die Hard. No, not Live Free, Die Hard. Edge of Tomorrow.
Yep. Edge of Tomorrow's good. Good shit.
Edging of Tomorrow.
Very good.
Hot Top Time Machine. I'm looking up this. I'm trying to look up this movie. Like, it's giving me everything but this movie that is like this is gonna bother me. Noah. No, anyways,
Noah.
but yeah. I mean, it's time travel. No, I'm just kidding. What was I saying? Oh yeah, no, but like the idea of the bootstrap paradox is the idea of like basically having the information, trying to go back and change it, and having like the grandfather paradox happen, where if like you kill your grandfather, would it mean your parents are born? That type of thing. So
Or it could be the or the Futurama principle where Fry becomes his own grandfather.
it's very true. Yeah, that's very true, Trev. You just ruined my joke. Oh,
Yep.
Primer. Primer is what it was called.
Primer. Yeah, that's it. I'll just start with a P.
Yeah. Yeah, Primer.
It's not fuck.
No, it's not
No.
fuck.
Damn it.
That's the sequel.
I
And
don't know.
Nick's favorite, Time Crimes.
I love Time Crimes. Are you kidding me? Time Crimes is fucking awesome.
I know you do.
That's a great Time Crimes is a great Spanish movie.
I've
Great
not
Spanish.
seen it.
Oh, it's
I think
fucking
he
awesome.
sent it to me, and I watched like the beginning. There's like these people like in their yard sitting on lawn chairs or something. I could be thinking.
Well, I mean, as it moves along, it gets more and more interesting as it.
Well, yeah,
as
yeah. I'm not
it
saying it's
uses the
bad.
time
It's
travel
just,
stuff.
for whatever reason, I think maybe it got taken down. I think it was on YouTube and it got taken
Oh,
down.
was it?
Yeah. Before it
Yeah,
got taken
when I worked at Blockbuster, they gave me a copy of it just because they're getting rid of it. But anyways, yeah, but it uses the bootstrap paradox. It uses the grandfather paradox. It is about a man named Paul who, with another guy named Harvey. It almost seems like Harvey just wants to go back and observe time, but Paul's like, no, I want to go back and change time because why shouldn't we be able to change time? Why shouldn't we be able to do these types of things? And it's a morality tale about the things that happen can't be changed, and no matter what you do, you can't fuck with time because it for one we can't time travel anyways because it's virtually impossible. But just the idea of like, okay, let's say you guys went back in time, would you go back and like win the lottery? Would you go back and fuck Cleopatra? Would you go back and I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things like, what would you do? Would you try to kill Hitler? What would you do?
I would go back in time and buy a shit ton of retro video games while they were new for really cheap.
Like
And put it in
the
a safe
stadium game or
deposit
whatever.
box, come back, sell the really expensive ones, and up my collection. That's my aspirations right there.
I just want to go back and walk through time in places that don't exist anymore.
See, hers
Like,
are much more lofty than mine and more noble.
Not really. I just want to go like
I
walk
wanna
down
get-
the street of an 1890s like street or whatever. I think that'd be fun just to see the
that
way
sounds
things
like
were.
just better. I want to go get Panzer Dragoon Saga.
Dude, I'm poor.
15
I'm always
copies
gonna
of it.
be fucking poor. Nothing is gonna change, so I might as well just enjoy. Like, if I can go time travel, I'm just gonna go look. I'm a tourist by trade.
Snatcher on the Sega CD.
You know what this reminded me of though? Like randomly, like so once upon
Yeah.
a time where you've got Buster Keaton going to the future and realizing how crazy it was and going back to the past. Kind of a reverse of that on the
Yeah.
back end.
Yeah, I bring up 11/22/63 just for a simple fact
Oh,
of
yeah.
like the guy goes back in time to try and kill
And
or try
time
to stop
fights
what's his
him.
face.
Yeah, and time
Yeah,
fights him
exactly.
all along the way.
That's
It
that
also
Stephen
deals
King
like-
thing, isn't it?
Hmm?
Yeah,
Stephen
yeah.
King. That's
I haven't
probably
read
my
that.
favorite
Actually,
Stephen King movie.
I heard it's really good, but I've
The
read
book
a lot
is
of
the
Stephen
book's
incredible.
fucking awesome. Yeah,
I read a lot of Stephen King, and
Um,
he is a great writer, but I have
Yeah.
not read that one.
That one
I
is
can't
very
remember
different.
who.
Like there are bits that are very Stephen King-esque, but by and large, it. If you were to offhandedly read it, like you wouldn't necessarily get the vibe that it was a Stephen King from the get-go.
Well, it's a newer book. Like the newest thing he's written that I read was Doctor Sleep.
Oh,
I
he's
read most of
done.
his
He's
older
done
stuff.
so many books since then.
Oh, I know, but I mean, most of the stuff I've read
He
No, I
releases
understand.
is like
he
his older
releases
stuff.
books that like wait, when did he fucking release this? Like 2 weeks ago? Wait, what? Like I
Yeah.
didn't even knew he was like he said he was retiring like 25 years ago. It's just like what the fuck? I mean,
Oh,
I don't I
he
really give
has
a
like
shit, but it's
multiple
just
books
like
a year.
but I
He's
bring
still
up
all
12
hyped up on
Monkeys,
all that cocaine he did. It's like keeping him going.
right? He's either doing that or he's bashing the GOP on Twitter. He's doing one of the two things every day.
Yeah.
Or he's talking about how awesome his movies are.
Yeah, especially Maximum Overdrive.
Yeah, I love that commercial for that. Hi, I'm Stephen King. Dude was blitzed out of his mind. Anyway,
oh, wasn't it? Oh yeah, but I also say that like it's very much like 12 Monkeys because it's about a dude that keeps going back to different things and like for instance at the end of 12 Monkeys as we know he goes back and he can't change the past and I appreciate what this episode's trying to do. Once again, as it says, it could have been two separate episodes. And it would have been
Yeah.
just fine, like a two-parter.
Yeah.
It didn't need to be like this. Didn't need to be like one whole.
I think that
mean,
this would
yeah.
have, if it was a 30-minute episode, it literally would have ended at about the 30-minute mark when he came back the first time
Oh yeah.
and like just said, "Oh, there's nothing I could do about it." I think that would have been like the end of a regular length Twilight Zone
Yeah.
episode right there.
I mean, you would have the mystery of like, why is he going back to this time? Like, you don't even know what time it is, and at the end is, you see a newspaper headline that says, "Random guy disappears, was trying to kill Hitler" or something like that. That would be the end of the episode, and you wouldn't know he was trying to kill Hitler. And here, because it's 50 minutes, they have to tell you everything in kind of grand detail what's going on before it settles down in another complete different episode of the series that deals with the time travel. But it's like I guess the
Willoughby.
question what's that?
He went to Willoughby.
Oh yeah,
Basically,
yes he
he
did.
literally did.
Yeah, literally, figuratively, and literally. But I gotta ask you guys that question, like, as this episode for a 52-minute episode, I guess it's fine, but did you guys feel the same way I did, where it just felt like it just could be two different stories, two different things? It felt like it was too much.
I mean, I could. Oh, go ahead, Jake.
No, go ahead. You go.
I was just gonna say, like, I could see the mindset of doing it that way. Like, you try and affect giant world events, and then you say, well, I can't go that route, so I'll just try living in the past. But then he runs across the temptation to, like, try and do something big with Garfield, and then he tries to think smaller and ends up causing shit, and then it's like, well, shit. So, I mean, I could see the two
Yeah.
connected, but it definitely, like, you're given so much information and so much happens in the first half. It feels like that in itself was the hour episode. I'm not going to say it didn't use its time well per se, but it was like, I don't know, the half the episode felt longer, but it didn't feel like an hour episode. It just felt like the story should have completed at that point.
Well, that's
didn't
what I was
think it
gonna
would do
say.
I was surprised the turn it took. I didn't see him doing that.
Yeah.
Well, no, the thing I was gonna say is I think the reason this episode is enjoyable is they didn't lean on the whole him just going to different pinpoints of different history things. It's not like he goes the three different places, but then they could have just kept going with him going to like the Titanic or going to
I think it would have
Vietnam
gotten
or
boring
going to,
though if he tried
well, that's
to
my
do that.
point. Yeah, that's my point. It would have gotten real boring and kind of it's like 52 minutes of this. So I get why they broke it up into two halves. It just at that point it just feels like they could have just fifth season this episode and
I don't
done something.
think
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. I agree. I think it does feel like almost like two different episodes, but I don't think they could have gotten two episodes out of it. I think it feels like, not in a bad way, the 30-minute or 24-minute episode stretched out. So 50 minutes. But what I mean by that is it could have been one of two different episodes. It could have been an episode where we see him mostly, 24-minute episode where we see him mostly in the Homeville. But what it would have done is it would have started, and in the start, before he goes there, he would have been talking to whatever the guy up on the podium, and he would have been like, I've gone back this many times and tried to change all these things. I tried killing Hitler. I tried doing this. And every time got in the way, just give a quick little like 10-second blurb explaining what happened in the beginning of this episode. And then the episode would have been about him going to live his life out at this place. That could have been an episode, or the first half of this episode where he goes back in time and then he just says, he comes back and says he learned his lesson that way, or he just says, I'm going to this place. And he just ends up, or maybe he says, I got one more place I'm going to go. I'm going to try. And he just shows him going to this Homeville place. And he's like, yeah, I'm going to stay here because there's no bombs and stuff. I don't think they could have necessarily gotten 2 episodes out of this, but I do think it is one of 2 episodes right there as far as like shorter versions of it. But I think, I mean, expanding it, one of those ideas out to the way they did, either expanding it forward or expanding it backwards, whichever, I think it worked. I mean, I liked the episode. I was entertained by it.
Well, I mean, you could have done where, this guy in the 1881 is making high claims or whatever about how he's done this and done that, and people don't believe him. And then at the very end, they find, him in the past and articles of him in like Japan and him in, wherever else he went, Germany and stuff like that. I mean, you could have done it that way, but I mean, I don't
that's
know.
Not what this episode was. It wasn't really about that. It was about him.
No, I know. I'm just saying you could
that
do it that way.
Lesson. That's why I do think that if this had ever been considered, or it was like a shorter version, like in the writing stages or something, I do think it would have been like more focused on the second half, because that's where he learns that lesson. And we would have just caught a verbal auditory reference to that, his 3 stops he did and how they didn't work. Because I mean, technically, the episode could have been just the same, more or less, like the same information, and with that first part of the episode, those 3 visits just being verbally said, like in 10 to 30-second monologue of explaining that's what he's done, and he's learned that he can't change the past.
Yeah.
And I mean,
actually,
I do think that it's more impactful that we got to see him go back, because you get to spend that time and see that. So I think that makes it a bit more impactful. But the episode absolutely could have worked with just saying those things, telling instead of showing.
And with this being like several months before John F. Kennedy was assassinated, I'm pretty sure if they had done this episode like 10 years after, the Kennedy assassination would have been one of those 3. Which makes me wonder if this episode was inspiration for 11/22/63, because
it would have been,
Stephen King,
because it seemed like he was doing things more that would have prevented like mass death, like the Hiroshima bomb, or Hiroshima, however you say it, or Hitler. He was the spearhead of all those deaths, and the sinking of the ship. Seems like he was going after things that would like stop mass death, like in its tracks right there.
Well, I mean, the one thing from 11/22/63 is the reason that it was picked as the, I guess, spoilers for the book, but the reason that that was kind of chosen by the kind of main guy was because it kicked off so much stuff. Like it kicked off, different.
But it didn't seem like it was like as like Kennedy's assassination. I'm sure there was bad things that happened as a result of that, but not as like, at least surface level, like directly
right. No, I get
of
you.
that. Like, I mean, the most
the
indirect
Lusitania
one of the 3 would be Hitler, but I mean, it's kind of hard to like not say that if Hitler wasn't there, maybe some of this shit wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Well, the Lusitania thing, that was one cause of World War I, but it certainly wasn't the only one. I mean, you had Archduke
No.
Ferdinand,
I mean, but all the people on the boat.
Right. No, but that's the thing, that it was the reason that he picked that was because it was one of the starters, one of the things that caused the start of World War I.
It's actually that, and also the assassination of
Archduke Ferdinand. Yeah.
Yeah, that was the one that most people kind of pointed.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we've got 60 years on this show too, that things have come out, so maybe that.
Right.
Well, no, I'm just saying, like, I was just bringing it up because he's going back to like major events, so I figured maybe he would use like the assassination of Kennedy or something, because he still uses like the assassination of like Grover Cleveland and stuff like that in this episode.
Yeah, but that was 1881. He was.
I realize that.
Right, but I think he was being. It was almost like a tempting thing, like
It was just showing that he knows some stuff that's going to happen, and he's going to have to. If he's going to live back in this time, there's going to be times that he knows bad things are going to happen, and he's just going to have to suck it up, Buttercup, and like
Yeah.
not say anything.
Yeah. But before we actually continue, all the opening, we're introduced to Paul and Harvey and the magical ball machine that creates the time machine and all that stuff. So let's do the opening narration before I forget.
The magical ball machine. Oh yeah, it did have like the string.
It had like
string
Christmas
lights.
lights hanging off of it.
Anal beads.
Yeah.
Yes, anal
there's
beads.
that too.
Yes.
They did look kind of like anal beads. Okay. What is that? Okay. Exit 1, Paul Driscoll, a creature of the 20th century. He puts to a test a complicated theorem of space-time continuum, but he goes a step further, or tries to. Shortly, he will seek out 3 moments of the past in a desperate attempt to alter the present, one of the odd and fanciful functions in a shadowland known as the Twilight Zone.
So very traditional Rod Serling talking, very
Good
by the
verbiage.
books. I like how he just goes. I wonder if people when they hear him talk, like he said, complicated theorem, be like, what is he? What is he saying?
I wonder if he talked like that just in day-to-day life. Like every time his daughter
Yeah, to his
got in
kids.
trouble, he'd like sit down and start talking to them. They're like, oh God.
Dad.
Daddy.
Shut up. I don't know what the fuck you're saying.
I actually timed this episode to see because I was hearing that it was 2 parts or whatever. And like 20 minutes, it's about 20 minutes of the episode that is him traveling to the 3 different locations. And the first location he goes to is of course Hiroshima, the Japan, and I like the thing that always cracks me up about time travel, and you see it in a lot of time travel episodes, movies, is you have the guy who knows all this stuff is trying to help the people. And people it's like the whole monster in the closet, with the parents and the kid, where they just kind of wave the wave it off like it's nothing. And then at the very end, the incident actually happens. And you see the police captain or whatever die in the bomb, and you see somehow the photograph survives the nuclear bomb or whatever. But I like the idea of just like
Atomic bomb.
this guy just what's up?
Hydrogen bomb.
Yep.
Atomic bomb.
Yes, thank you.
You
But
saw
I just like
Oppenheimer.
I've seen Oppenheimer indeed. Was the same thing with like when he travels. I like the fact that like you try to tell these people, but they're like, you're just a crazy person. We'll send you. It happens, of course, in 12 Monkeys, where he's like, I know this what's gonna happen. There's gonna be this virus, and they're like, whatever. Go to see what's his face, Brad Pitt. It's craziness, and I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I enjoy it.
If someone
when
came
they do
up
that.
to you and said, if you leave this house at this moment, you're going to cause, a nuclear war because of where you go and what you do. I mean, there's a lot of crazies out there, and God knows, they've embraced the crazy now more than ever. So,
but when you think it's odd that a man comes in screaming that there is going to be a bomb that explodes that's going to destroy the planet in the midst of World War II.
right, and he's like, one bomber? Yeah, we can handle one bomber.
And then 10 seconds
Two
later,
bomb.
it explodes.
Yeah.
It's a new kind of bomb.
You think when he goes out in the hall, he just like comes back, he's like, you know how he's like going back and forth in the smoke because he's like traveling through time. He
Yeah,
like
but how'd
disappears.
that
And like,
work?
where'd he go?
I know that that's not what it's about, but I couldn't help but like, how did he have
He
a
did the
device?
quantum leap. He had a quantum leap thing.
Was he only there for a certain amount of time? Like he hits a certain time and it like shifts him somewhere else? Was that programmed in the machine? Like we didn't get anything about that. Like when he went to the past or to the Homeville and he decided to come back, like how did he just have like a time cop wrist thing where he's like boop, and like goes
Probably.
back? Or
No, he did like Triv said, he did the quantum leap thing where when Sam becomes Al in that one episode, he just puts a letter in the mailbox and they send him back in time.
Yeah, from
No,
a
legit.
ship.
That's what happens. Yeah, I don't know. He sent a bird, pigeon.
word smoke signals.
Yep.
Yeah, smoke signals. As the ship's exploding, he sends smoke signals. He's like, "Whoa, anyways, and so yeah, Hiroshima happens. Paul then travels to, of course, Berlin to assassinate Adolf Hitler. Gets like the greatest room to do that because reasons and logic and time travel. And the maid comes up. She's like, "Oh, isn't this you have the greatest room ever? You can see the
You see a
Fuhrer. Yeah, you
Yep.
see El Fuhrer." and
Like he's not very
he's like,
good at
get
his
out of my
job
room.
either. He's there to assassinate this guy in the middle of Berlin. Clearly, this lady's a supporter, and he's like talking shit. He should have just been like, "Yes, Zig Heil."
Yeah, but his accent would have given him away there too. Like I think
But we weren't
nature
enemies
of
at that point.
no,
I
but
mean, we
I
were
think
neutral.
by nature of her being of him being just an American, that would have been a red flag to someone like that though too. Even if we were, neutral or whatever.
I don't know. I think he could have done better.
Jacob,
But hey,
if butts were nuts and candy nuts, something
butts and nuts.
candy nuts. What
Candy
was that expression?
I don't know. I think you were trying to tell me.
I can't remember.
Something about butts with nuts in them. I mean,
don't want to
I
think
was on
about
board.
butts and nuts.
I was on board for it.
It's like if nuts were butts and candy nuts.
Oh, time travel.
Right.
What does the candy and nuts mean? No. So yeah, time travel. So he has a gun, a rifle. This is my rifle. This is my gun, and it's a pretty cool effect. I mean, yes, they're using old school footage from early 1940s to kind of make it look like he's in the same era as Hitler, even though you can tell it's like pre-recorded footage, and they put a scope over the footage to make it kind of look like he's aiming at Hitler, and it doesn't go well because either the gun just doesn't want to work, or you forgot to put a bullet in it, or I wasn't really specific on
It was a
what exactly
misfire.
happened.
He
to
had
the
a
gun.
bullet in it because he
Did he?
ejected it. Yeah, he ejected. It was a misfire. He ejected it. He threw another one in, and then housekeeping.
He literally just like puts the gun off to the side. He's like, oh, I shall never see it. And then he tries to aim, but he tries to aim again, but the Hitler goes back in the room, and of course he disappears again as the SS guards come up to arrest him and send him to the ghetto to be killed or
As
whatever
you do.
they
The
do.
ghetto.
Now, I have to admit this right now. When this scene happened, when he goes to his third location, I actually couldn't tell where it was at or when it was at until they said it was a ship on the sea that was
Irish Sea.
destroyed by a thing,
Missile.
destroyed by a
Yeah,
torpedo. And so I didn't know it was Lusitania. I just didn't know. I thought it was the Titanic because I thought he was going to say, all you need to do is go a few degrees right. You'll miss this iceberg. But then he said, all you need to do is like go 1 degree to the left or to the right or whatever it was, and you will survive. And the captains, of course, are like, you're an idiot. Go away. Skipper, get this guy out of here. And I don't know. It's interesting to see like this guy is trying everything in his power to stop these things, and he never succeeds. And
I knew what it was, but I couldn't remember the name of the ship. When they said Lusitania, I was like, oh yeah, that's the name of that ship. But
well, no, I was just
why.
thinking maybe it was like
it's that one ship.
Yeah.
the one ship with the one people and the one thing, and
It got blowed up.
That
yeah.
did.
But I couldn't remember what it was offhand. But I mean, what do you guys think about like these 3 specific eras? Like they're very well known eras. Do you think they would have done that like that on purpose because of the simple fact of like how
Yes,
dramatic they were?
yes, it was that, but like Jacob said before, they were like major points that were turning points for world wars and things of that nature, I think too.
Mass
And
death.
you could see him evolve his argument a bit. Like the first one, he's like, oh well, you may not believe my ramblings, but there's a plane that's going to kill you and destroy your town. And then the next one he was, took it upon himself to do it, and that clearly didn't work. And the third one, he brought like the next day's paper to the ship captain to be like, hey, look at this. But you're in the middle of the ocean. This random person shows up. Must be a crazy.
You know what would have been best about this episode? If he had gone back in time and stopped UA Boll from making movies.
No,
Eh,
can't
Yes,
take that greatness from us.
we got to,
Agreed.
man. We got to.
Sure, get your
it could
boy.
be the only thing that saved
back
us
and make-
from. No, I think that UA Boll we should make sure that UA Boll gets on the track to kick your ass in the ring. WrestleMania
Challenge me to a
27,
boxing match.
bitches.
WrestleMania. We'll have Hitler, or not Hitler. We'll have this guy go back and make Jacob a Mormon
What? That doesn't make any damn sense.
and make Triv a sexy nun
Right. There's no chance of that.
from
But
Illinois instead of Iowa.
yeah. Oof.
It could happen.
She's like, fuck this. Anyways, so Paul decides after some thinking and much to do. He's going to go back to 1881, Homeville, Indiana. He wants to go live in the time of peace and harmony and right after
No
the Civil
bombs.
War. Yeah, no bombs and excitement and cheer. And Harvey's like, you really don't want to do that. You absolutely do not want to do that because if you go back and pull a Homer Simpson, you will destroy the entire world. There'll be no donuts. There'll be lizard tongue eating creatures or for Ned Flanders lobotomy and all that stuff, or you'll turn into I don't know what else. Help me, people. Anyways, he's like, you can't do this. You can't go back and do this. And I kind of agree. I think he lets Paul off the hook pretty easily, Mr. Harvey. Maybe he saw a gigantic rabbit. I don't know, but at last, Paul goes back to 1881, and that's the 35 minutes of the episode.
Well, that's why I think that the second part of the episode is the more important part to what they're trying to say, because he learns a lesson from going to those three places, but it's not really a lesson. He just learns more of a fact. Can't change time. It doesn't really change his outlook on things or anything like that. He doesn't change. He just gets new information of, oh, I can't change time, so got to stop. So I'm just going to go somewhere that this stuff doesn't exist. The actual lesson he learns is in Homeville. So that's why I do think if this was a shorter episode, it would focus on that part, and we just hear auditory blurbs about his travels and why he can't change time.
Or maybe you focus on one of those three events.
Yeah, and then he comes back. He's like, I've done it 3 times now, or something like that. I don't know, but
the whole
I do think that
season,
because he learns the lesson of yes, you can't change time. He reinforces that gets reinforced, but he also was the catalyst of the situation. In him trying to change it, he was the catalyst. So
yeah, exactly. I mean, I like how it basically is it goes from like 100 miles an hour to like 0 in like a 5-second span, because it's like it really is kind of weighted in like 2 halves, where when he goes to 1881, it's I don't know, it feels like it just completely just stops at a standstill, and
well, it was
he's
supposed to. That's why he went
contemplating.
there.
Well,
He
no,
went
that's
there
my
to
point.
slow
Like,
down and live out his life in like peace and easy, simpler times.
And he does the
right.
reverse of Buster Keaton and goes someplace that's more quiet instead of more exciting.
And we all want to. I'm pretty sure we all love to do something like this, where we go back and live with the knowledge of like things will work itself out, and we want to all. I mean, personally, if there's a weeping angel around, send me back to whatever century or whatever you want to, because I could definitely use it. But the harder he
You want to go
tries
back to
just,
the 16th century and handle bubonic plague?
I mean, whatever. I mean, I already know.
Take some
I'll take some
penicillin with you.
medicines.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just can't blink while I'm doing it. I just
He's
gotta
a
be like,
witch. He's a witch.
they probably would do that. They put me on a little scale with a goose. But I like how once again time travel is constantly pushing back at you. So he goes back there thinking he's gonna be all right. He goes into a bar, he drinks, the 5-cent beer, apparently the difference between 1881 and 1940 whatever is 5-cent beer was all that time. Did you notice that? Was it like 5
Mhm.
cents in that one episode?
The beer?
8 cents.
Yeah.
Was it 8 cents? So it's gone up 3 cents in like a century or decade or whatever, a couple decades, several decades.
Yeah, but the beer got a lot more watered down too. Back then, where he went in Homeville, that was probably some hardcore shit.
Oh yeah. Like the sarsaparilla.
Yeah,
Beer,
exactly.
Sasquatchawilla.
Yeah, exactly.
I've had sarsaparilla. It's not that bad. Tastes like
Yeah.
soda.
It's kind of a variation on root beer or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny. Like they talk about sarsaparilla soda, and then they talk about gelato and ice cream, and like they all seem the same to me. Not like the soda to ice cream. I'm
I
just
mean, the
saying,
process is different, but
well, yeah, I know gelato is like creamy or whatever, but it's just like it just feels
Creamy.
like ice cream, creamier, creamy.
Creamy.
You like you want it to be creamy, don't you? Well, you want to be with a woman being creamy,
Like
I'm
it
sure.
creamy.
But like I said, it doesn't matter how hard he tries to settle down. He's gonna have to deal with President Garfield being shot, and then he, meets a woman named Abigail Sloan, who's a teacher who almost fell off the side of a canyon because her horses got spooked or whatever. And he falls for her because she's a very likable, plot device, I guess.
Quick.
I
Fall
don't
for
know.
her quick. She falls for him
Mhm.
quick too.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it's the Nightingale effect. He knows things, so she feels sorry for him or something. I don't know. But it's like Back to the Future Part 3 where, they fall for each other and he's like, "No, stop. I can't. Me, man, you woman in the past. I can't deal with you." And I don't know. Pretty standard stuff when it comes to time travel, except he's a little bit smarter knowing that he can't change the past and he's not going to. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think he's trying to live out a life, make a life for himself in the past. And because the past is the past, it's still going to, fight back because he's not supposed to be there.
Yeah, I thought it was you had said it was depressing.
And Abigail says something, and then Paul says something, and they're like,
And I mean, I'm not gonna say it was like happy-go-lucky ending, but I mean, he came back, and it's almost like he went through all this so that he could come back to his own time and come to terms with the fact of bad shit happens no matter when
Yeah.
you are. And he did. He said, stop. You need to start doing something. You can't change yesterday, but you can do something today about tomorrow. I was like, so yeah,
"Well, I
he came
mean,
out the other side better, and like it's not depressing. It's kind of probably a bit liberating for him now. He'll probably find some type of uh some function in life that's gonna better fulfill him because he can do something that maybe will make tomorrow better.
well, I mean, like depressing and melancholy in the sense of like what he tells her when, first of all, like she's asking where he's from, and he's like, I really can't tell you that, and she's like, why
Cleveland.
can't you stay with? Yeah, he's from Cleveland, Lion. And it's depressing and melancholy because he basically tells her she's from history or she's history, and like once again, like you look at something like The Family Man when he gets a glimpse of like what it could have been. It's a very melancholy experience, and like you can't be with this person, you can't be. Where the fuck do you just have like do you have a device that
Yes.
whenever it's
The
like
answer is
waiting?
yes. The answer is yes.
He like I Trip, no joke, I didn't know he was gonna do that, so that's fucking weird. He like
the
ejects
answer to whatever
disc
question you have is yes.
okay. But no, it's just a very melancholy experience, and just
Is he a
the idea of
foreigner?
like,
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
He is.
But
He's a
just the
man
simple fact
outside of
that
time.
he did. He's like you don't have that one movie with Christopher Reeve, do you? Somewhere in time.
Oh, I'm sure it's somewhere in all the
In
movies.
time. But I mean, like I said, very melancholy in the simple fact that you can't have this, and you'll never be able to have this because it's history, as he says. It's just the speech is very depressing to me because it's just like the perfect thing for you can't be obtained, so therefore you have to find something that may not be the thing you want, and it's a very hard, difficult thing to see. Like I want to go back and change the mistakes that I made with my finances or whatever. I just can't do it because I know I changed it and it'll affect like we'll never have met on this YouTube channel or the podcast, or I will never had the cat or whatever, like never lived where I lived at. It's a very melancholy experience to think about, very, very sad.
I think it's
in a lot of-
it's an adult experience because there are those
Yeah.
things
Yeah.
that you can't change. And seeing, with what happens to him, he's kind of mourning something that never truly was.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I think
it's
it's
a-
more
yeah.
eye-opening. I mean, he comes to terms with it, so I think that is a positive. I guess I get what you're saying is how it's kind of, melancholy, kind of sad that, hey, this thing, it seems really right, really perfect, but I can't have this. But it's also about accepting that, accepting
Yeah.
that you can't have certain things, and moving forwards to get the things that are within your grasp that you can actually have, that are possible, And I think that he
Yeah, it's
really
like
recognizes that.
I can't just go down to the local store and buy myself a bag of squashies. I have to get them from England, which I don't know why. I don't know why squashies aren't in America. It's so weird to me. But we got to talk about the table, the dinner scene with the two. I guess they're brothers. I thought they were like a gay couple or something like that. I didn't know exactly what was
Yeah.
going on, but
Right.
Then again, the '60s would never have a gay couple like this
I
in
was
this
gonna
TV
say,
show.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the 40s did kind of with rope.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess that's true. I think TV is a little different than movies, though. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. But the discussion they have is, I told Triv, and I won't repeat it on here, but it feels like a discussion of a certain subset of what's going on in a certain time period. I won't get into where they're making a point, and the point is upsetting Abigail, and Abigail says something, and then Paul says something, and they're like, oh my God, what did she say? What did he say? They just feel so offended by their own stupidity of what they say. And I don't know how you guys feel. I don't, you guys might have different opinions on who you agree with, but it was just funny to watch Paul just put them in their place like a bunch of bitches.
I look at that conversation. I liked that conversation for a couple of different reasons. I think, and maybe I'm reading way too much into it. Because clearly, Serling, he wrote this, right?
Yes.
Yep.
He has views on war because he has been to war. And I think a lot of people that have been to like big war, like real, like war, probably feel like, hey, I've had enough of the killing and dying, and they view that stuff differently. I think from what I've seen of him and his writing, if I had to guess what his stance on war and death and all that is that it is an unfortunate necessity in our in human beings. Unfortunately, I mean, we could sit here and say have peace and no war, but it's going to happen. And I think he probably believes something along the lines of, I don't want anything to do with it anymore, and it's a terrible thing, and I don't agree with it, but I understand that sometimes for the right reasons it has to happen.
Well,
With
yeah, because they're talking
creatures.
about,
Right.
yeah, they're talking about
And
putting American flags in every orifice of the world, and they're
well,
talking about, killing
and I was getting to
Indians,
that.
and yeah,
This was in 1850, I think it was 1851,
1880.
1881.
1880. Okay, so our country was not that old in the grand scheme of things.
Yeah, like 100
We
plus years.
were in a place at that point that's like, we had to fight to get to be a country, to be who we were, and to have our independence and all that. So I think that as a country, people were just kind of, that's where we were, because that's how the world kind of was more so.
It's
now,
manifest destiny more than anything else.
yeah, like nowadays, not so much, because most places out there are, they're settled, if you will. Back then, there was a little bit more. It wasn't. I mean, everything was settled, I guess, and we could talk about indigenous people and stuff like that. But all that aside, not getting into that conversation, there was a lot of places in the world that people were still taking over, that people were still coming in and planting a flag in. So I don't think that these guys, because if you look at it through the lens of someone from 1963 or even now, this guy sounded crazy. It's like, what are you talking about? Just going around and just like taking places over and planting your flag and all that. But then if you look at it, not that I've ever been there, but just from what little I know, you look at it from the lens of 1880, does it sound as crazy? I'm not saying it's right or anything like that. I'm not condoning anything, but that's just how the world was at that point. People was taking their flag and putting it all over places. So, I mean, this guy was a bit overzealous, yes. And I think that the point was to be looking at it through the lens of someone from 1963 at that time.
Right.
But I do think that, like, it's kind of like you got to look at it from both perspectives. Like in 1963, we're like, and now we'd be like, that's insane. But in 1880, maybe not as crazy at that point, because people were having to fight for what they had. And if we wanted to keep America at that time, we had to fight. And expanding out too. There's just something that happened at the time. It is what it is. So I did think that was an interesting conversation there. Not saying what the guy was saying was right, or who was right or who was wrong, but I think it's interesting to look at it from the two different perspectives, because they are very different. But like I said, we are supposed to be looking at it from what's his name? Paul. From Paul's perspective, and I understand why Paul was like, I've seen enough death. I mean, he had just gone through like World War II not too long ago, and all that, and everything that was going on in the 60s. So he's like, I've seen enough. I don't want anymore. So you can fuck off. But that guy's just like, what? That's just what we do. What?
Right. Well, and you think about it too. He didn't just do World War II. He did Korea, he'd probably
Yeah, like all the stuff in the
Yeah.
50s, 60s. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Cold War, everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you can look at the episodes like I think you already said a little bit, Jacob, is like inner monologue, inner dialogue for how Rod Serling feels on the nature of like war. I mean, the guy talks about, oh, we want a day where there's 1 million men in the military, make America, make America the best in the country or best in the world. It kind of like is a trajectory of like how Rod Serling, I'm sure, felt that people just didn't understand like that, you know.
I think Serling
that
thought
it maybe
war was
yeah,
okay
yeah,
if it was. He probably thought it was overused, but he understood that
yeah,
at times it was not okay, but it was just an inevitability.
necessary evil. Yeah,
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 but then at other times, I think he was probably of the mindset that we don't need to do that unless it is the last viable option. Because I think he also felt very like he comes across as he felt proud of his service, and he seems like he takes extra care and honors the people that are in the armed
Oh
services
yeah.
and stuff like that. So I don't think he's like one of those people that just hates military and war and stuff like that. Like not war, but the military. I think he's just someone who went through a war and was like, man, if we don't have to do that, let's not.
He's got the real world experience versus this other
Yeah.
guy that
He's
like
not gung ho to go blow people away. He's like,
right.
I've been there, done that. Let's
He
not
takes a
do that unless we
realistic
gotta.
response. Right.
Like, we may
I
have
like
to. I get that it has to happen, but let's do everything else we can before we go there.
right. I like how the guy calls Paul a Democrat.
Oh yeah,
He's like, that guy's a
hotel.
Democrat.
Yeah.
He
He
might
must be a
be.
Democrat. Yeah, yeah. So I thought that was kind of funny.
I guess
That
Garfield was a Republican. I don't know.
yeah.
Hell, Democrats and
Um,
Republicans, all that stuff was different then anyway.
Yeah.
Hell, it was
no,
different 10 years
it's just
ago.
a funny expression. It's
Well,
just
Yeah, I
funny.
know.
up until
to hear
Lincoln,
it.
there was the Democratic Republicans and I can't think what the other group was. Like the Federalists, maybe the Whigs. I don't remember.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, probably. But the big kind of climactic third act to this episode is the kerosene lantern burning of the school.
It
He
flew off on that
basically
string.
Yeah.
yeah. But I like how
Well, so did the torpedo at the beginning, or the
Did it?
Lusitania thing. You could see
Hey,
the string.
Yeah, but that whole
Oh,
situation
that
there
reminds me.
you saw that money that extra money they had for this season with the whole submarine and the shooting of
yeah.
the torpedo and all that. I mean, it was in effect on TV in the 60s, but still, I mean, that was high production
Well,
for this show.
that reminds me. Did you guys see the cable on Burgess Meredith's hand or on his arm? You can actually see when he pulls his arm up this, like when his finger with the flame, you can actually see the cable on his arm.
Oh, nice.
Burgess,
I
oh,
can't
last
say
week I was like, Burgess
yeah.
Meredith wasn't in this.
No, I'm just saying last week. But no, what I was gonna say is Abigail says something about, her school. She like cries because she knows he can't be with her, so she goes back to her school, and then he's like, this seems really familiar. I feel like I know this, and he finds it in the book, which I don't know if this is something that he was researching or whatever, but he somehow has it in his book that a school burned down and
Well, he
gravely
was going
injured
there,
him.
so I imagine he had like a bunch of like the history of the place or something.
Right. Same way that they did in
Oh, that's true.
11/22/63. Like he had the notebook of stuff.
True, that's a good point. But
Which I must have been remembering this episode because as soon as they mentioned we're practicing the choir for the 4th of July
yeah,
parade or whatever tomorrow, I was like, that school catches on fire. And I thought she and some of the kids died, but apparently it was just kids got injured. But I was like, like this is like 5 to 8 minutes before they had the revelation because then they started talking about it a whole lot, and I was like, yeah, it's absolutely that. That's why I was like, is that a
Right.
historical thing, or am I remembering this episode? I don't know.
and the idea of the bootstrap paradox or the time paradox, it comes into effect because, of course, a traveling salesman, because it is 1800s, is selling his fake elixirs or whatever. But of course, they have to have the shot of the kerosene lantern, and a kerosene lantern destroyed the school or whatever, it became a bank, and everything is just very much foreshadowing what's going to happen. And he tries to unhitch the horses, and he didn't watch Ghostbusters because you don't mess with horses, or he didn't watch
Well, because that
True Lies.
dumbass whipped him.
Yeah,
He got there,
that's
he's like,
my
leave my
point,
horses alone. And then they take off.
Yeah.
He's like, oh my God, why are they doing that? Because you fucking whipped
Really need to
them.
watch Back to the
Yep.
Future because, like,
Yeah.
you know, horses when they get scared, they run away and
I knew that was going to
unhitch the
happen.
buggy.
I knew that he
Uh,
was going to be the catalyst for it as soon as when he was saying unhitch that sword.
I mean,
I was
did you
like, I
honestly know
wonder.
that, or are you just saying you knew that?
No, I really did. I mean, I knew it. That's why I'm thinking I'm remembering this episode, but just like bits and pieces and like kind of
Yeah.
just like almost like deja vu. Because like when he walked up, he's like, "You need to unhitch those horses." I was like, he's gonna be the reason that this. If he didn't do this, it wouldn't happen, and that's exactly what happened. So I must be remembering it from 20 some odd years ago when I watched it.
Quite possibly.
Or did you watch it last week and you're just not telling us, Jacob? I see how this
I watched
is.
it today on my laptop in the kitchen.
But of course,
While I cut a steak.
as he learns, he is the catalyst for why the school burned down. It's his fault, and he caused a paradox. I think you know he was
Or
meant to
was
go
it a
back in
thing
time.
where, yeah, exactly. He's meant to go back in time to do the thing because otherwise it wouldn't have happened or it would have gotten worse.
Yeah, it's the
Yep.
Bill and Ted effect. You know, if they don't put the keys on the police station, they don't rescue the
We've
already done famous it, people.
dude. We don't have to go back and do it.
Remember the trash can. So it's one of those things like, yeah, as Tripp said, he was meant to go back in time. Back in time, duder.
Time. When I want back in time. That's for all the people that love that we sing on this podcast all the time.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Jacob's just gonna sing every week now. So yeah, so school burns down. He basically runs off back to the future and or back to the present. And
I was so waiting because he was saying, I have to go back to I was like, please say it, say the future. Go back to the future, to my place. I was like, fuck. He kept on
Why
like
did he build it?
almost saying it. I was like, is this where they got the name Back to the Future? No, it's not.
Right. Why did they say like you want to go? You want if I stay here, I'll make a train that goes to the future, and we could go, you know, bring our kids to the future. And one of them looks like he has to pee, and you know, talks to a young kid named Marty. I don't know. But he goes back and he talks about how you just gotta look to the future. You gotta change the future, not the past, and he will forever be sad and depressed. And as they look away, the episode ends, and he changes the future for the better.
But it didn't
Puts
end.
right.
He went
Put,
to
he put right what went
Harvey.
wrong.
Exactly.
He went to Harvey. He went to the present and talked to Harvey and his giant
went back to the
rabbit.
future.
Would it be the present though? Because he's already like he hasn't been to the future.
Well, not now. He went back to the past.
Yep.
Time travel
Back
is so
to the future to the
confusing.
past.
Yeah, it's so confusing. Whoa, Trev, whoa.
Yep.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I know Kung Fu.
Anyways, I know we kind of went
Exactly.
through the story instead of kind of interjecting it or whatever, but what do you guys think of the overarching story and how it plays out and what it does and all that good stuff?
I think it hit some good notes. It's not like perfect, but yeah, like I think, well, Dan Andrews is a great actor. He's appeared in a lot of movies and such. And yeah, I think the lesson he learns is a lesson that he had to learn by doing the thing that he needed to, like he needed to do that to learn the lesson, because otherwise I don't think he would have learned the lesson. And it helped him to grow by figuring out that, oh, damn, it's not just about not changing the past, it's about being okay with it. So, and I know we talked about like way back when the thing about machines, like with the car like driving itself and Stephen King being influenced by like to make Christine. You talked about earlier if he was influenced for 11/22/63 by this, and I would guarantee that it probably was, honestly, like truly.
Yeah, it seems once again it seems like Stephen King was very much in love
He
with
was
the Twilight
attuned.
Zone.
Yeah.
Yeah, seems like this type of show.
I like this episode. I thought it was I don't think it was like top 10 or anything, but I think it was above mid tier too. I mean, I think it was up there. It was a good episode. I think I was never bored, and it kept going. Now, admittedly, when he came back from his 3 attempts, I was like, okay. And I looked down at the time. I was like, it was like at 32 minutes or something. I was like, we got a while to go. What is he gonna do now? And it did kind of like went off somewhere I wasn't expecting, so that was fun. I'm not gonna say like I was like blown away by a twist or anything. Kind of saw that coming, especially as it honed
Was
in
it really
on.
a twist though?
Well, not a twist, the moral. I kind of honed in on it, as it got closer to it, I kind of knew where it was going to go with that. That's fine. It wasn't really, you're right, it wasn't really a twist. It was more of just a moral, I suppose. But I like the moral. I like that they took the time to, I feel like they used the 52 minutes wisely. I felt like they showed him, I never felt like any of it was total fluff. I mean, sure, some of it could have been, like I said earlier, could have been just done in like dialogue, but still, I didn't feel like it was fluff. I didn't feel like it was like wasted time or anything.
Yeah.
Enjoyable episode. I mean, I thought it had a less of a twist and more of a moral. It was more of a moral story. I think it had a good moral to teach and say about, hey, stop worrying about tomorrow or yesterday and start worrying about tomorrow, because you can do something about tomorrow. I think that's a good outlook.
Yeah,
Agreed.
and once again, like at this point in our lives and 60 plus years later, this episode isn't entirely original to us anymore because it's been done several times in several different ways and actually much more successful attempts at the type of thing it's doing. But I think 1963, once again, this episode's ahead of its time on just the unique nature of what it's trying to tell you, with the idea of like not being able to change the things that came before, not be able to change the things, be able to make positivity for the future, that type of thing. And I think it does it a pretty nice, like, once again, it's not a top 10 episode, of course, but as an episode that is trying to be entertaining as well as thought provoking when it comes to the ideas being represented, when it comes to the nature of like what you need to do and how you need to portray yourself and stuff like that, I think it does a pretty successful job at it.
Yeah.
And once again, I
It's
blame
definitely
Triff
better
for
than
telling me this
36.
series season was gonna be terrible, but it's all good.
Oh my
Yeah,
god.
it's all good. I don't know. What are you saying, Jacob? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
I was saying, yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely better than 36, but I mean, it's not like top 10.
Better than
Do you guys want
36.
to know where it hit for Paste and IMDb?
Sure.
Paste had it at 121 and IMDb had it at 94.
So about middle of the road for IMDb.
Well, below middle,
Yeah, below
really.
middle of the road.
Yeah, you're lower third,
I
really.
think middle of the road's like 80, right? 78. 80.
Well, when you get to the end, 50, it'd be like 156, so you'd have like like upper 70s, 79.
Mid 70s to 80s or
Yeah.
80, yeah, 78. Yeah, I think it's better. I think it's better than middle of the road. I mean, I think it's like I said, not or and Nick, you said too. I don't think it's top tier, top 10, but I think it's.
I
could
mean,
see
it
this
hits
in, like,
my
the 30s.
it hits my kind of whatever you want to call it, my level of what I like out of not only Twilight Zone but just stuff in general, like the subject matter.
Yeah,
I like the idea of like
thought provoking.
Yeah, I mean, I like the idea of going back in time and seeing what you do and see how things. That's why I love, like I said, I've talked about 11/22/63, 12 Monkeys, Time Crimes, any of these Back to the Future, any of these movies that deal with time travel in a lot of ways to. In fact, Looper, I think, is one of the more interesting films when it comes to that. And this is my cup of tea. Like, how Triv, how like One for the Angels was like your cup of tea and stuff like that.
Mhm.
That's kind of where this episode lies with me.
Yeah, I like time travel stuff.
Yeah, it's
So
just fun to think. Yeah. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
so the pace thing is kind of funky. This episode plays out if Serling took two completely different 25-minute scripts and combined them into an awkward last-minute attempt to come up with another season 4 outing.
I agree with the first half of that. I do. It does seem like two different, two different episodes. It seems like a two-parter. Like
Yeah.
if they ever did two-parters, it does seem like a two-parter. But once again, if they were doing 24-minute episodes this season, I don't think it would be a two-parter. I think they would just relegate one
Right.
part to audio or explanation instead of showing. Yeah, I think it would
Right.
be the first part.
It says this table or this fable about the futility of trying to alter fate suddenly turns into a western halfway through and it never recovers. I don't know
Yeah.
where it's coming up with that. It doesn't really. I mean, it lands
it
in a
seems like
more
that they
in a more
don't-
idyllic time, but it's certainly not a western.
And it seems like that they sometimes in their reviews, and each person's different, I guess, but it seems like they don't sometimes get the meaning of the episodes
No, I would agree
like
with
that.
that.
Absolutely, him going back to Homeville, every bit of that was like working into, and you saw it as it was happening. It was working into him understand, like coming to terms with
Right.
this
It was
thing, almost like
learning-
having a god complex in the
Right.
beginning of, I have a time machine, I can go back and do anything, and then he has to like just be put in his place and shown that no, you can't fuck with
Right.
time, you can't do that stuff, you need to stop worrying about that. And I don't know, I saw that the whole time. I saw it as like, yeah, he's here and he's learning that by seeing like, oh, I know this is going to happen, but I just got to let it go, and how it's going to eat away at him knowing these things that he could save or do something about something bad that's going to happen, but he ultimately can't because it'll fuck with time. So
with that said, anything else you guys want to talk about before we get to closing narration?
Not specifically.
good stuff. Season 4,
stuff
man,
is
still it is not
chugging
living
along.
up to or living down to the standard that everybody led me to believe.
I didn't
Yeah,
say a
I-
damn word about it in that
What about you?
respect.
Okay, and in all honesty, like Nick, I know that you've up until this point you've like been kind of like down on season 4 as well, and you're not the only one. Lots of people are.
Oh yeah, yeah.
What do you like? We're 10 episodes in now of 18 episodes, so we're more than halfway through. I mean, who knows what's coming? But all that aside, just from what we've watched, has your opinion of season 4 changed at all, or are you still pretty much along the same lines?
No, it's changed. I worry going back to the 24-minute format might hamper things. It's weird. Like, I was all worried about this season being kind of the dregs, and it might be the fact that maybe it was a much smarter move to go to an hour format. We'll see. We'll see when we go to season 5 if that holds true or not. But
Yeah, I think it's worked in
I
most cases.
I mean, it's working. It doesn't mean
Yeah.
the episodes are always entirely successful on the length, but I think for the most part, I think the stories are interesting. I think they're cohesive for the most part, and I think outside of like Jespel or something like that, they do a pretty competent job. Like we've had 3 episodes of this 4th season in the top 20 this season. I mean, that's not something I ever expected, because it's been so long since I've seen the 4th season, or if
Yeah.
I have seen most of the 4. Like, you never know. You're maybe back in like 20 years ago, you may not have enjoyed the 4th season. I mean, it just, your taste changed. So it might be the fact that we're older and these episodes kind of appeal much more than they may have had at one point. It's interesting because 3rd season, like you said, you didn't really care for, but you may have enjoyed that a lot more back in 20 years ago, that
And
type of thing. So
I didn't hate the 3rd season. Just when I say that, in comparison, season 1, 2, 3, and now half of 4, season
Right.
3
Yeah.
is overall experience. Season 3 is my least favorite. Like, if you said rank what we've watched up to this point, season wise, how would you rank them? Season 3 would be in last place. But that doesn't mean there's some great episodes in season 3. I just feel like there was a whole lot of mediocrity.
It's a multifaceted
Yeah.
thing, like everything else.
Twilight Zone mediocrity, because I still do stand by. Now, there's some bad Twilight Zone, but I still do stand by that. Even Twilight Zone mediocrity, for the most part, is better than a lot of just shows good episodes. So there's that.
exactly. Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. So anyways, let's go ahead and do the closing narration.
Ah, yes. I have that pulled up right here. I do. It's right here. I'm ready. Incident on a July afternoon, 1881. A man named Driscoll, who came and went, and in the process learned a simple lesson, perhaps best said by a poet named Lethbury, who wrote, "Children of yesterday, heirs of tomorrow, what are you weaving? Labor and sorrow. Look to your looms again. Faster and faster. Fly the great shuttles prepared by the master. Life's in the loom. Room for it. Room." Tonight's tale of clocks and calendars in the Twilight Zone.
Dun dun dun.
There you go.
Dun dun dun. Dun 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 dun. Yeah. So yeah, that's No Time Like the Past, season 4, episode 10. Good times had by all, except for Paul, who learned the life's hard lessons. Don't try to change the past, because you will fail.
Yep.
Or something of that
See.
nature.
Absolutely.
Okay. So with that said, let's go ahead and head into the last segment of this podcast, which is the closing narration. I mean, the Twilight Zone
I just
ranking
did that.
list. the
The hell
greatest
of a
ranking list,
narration.
right. The greatest ranking list ever known to man, because we demanded it and Paul said it and Rod Serling initiated it. Better and time enough at last.
What number is
Where is that?
Where's that?
Number 30.
Time enough it lasts.
Is this better than is this better than Most Unusual Camera or The Hunt? Valley of the
This
Shadow.
isn't better than a most unusual camera, to me at least. But that one ranks pretty high
I
for
should have
me.
gotten down before. Is this better
No,
than
no,
like
no, it's all right.
no, I'm just saying I agree. Like, is this better than like a
I do
World
think it's better than
Difference?
Time Enough It Lasts. But
Individually, yeah, but
The Hunt, I did really like The Hunt, and Most Unusual Camera's a really good one. I
Is
hate
it
that it's
better
way down here.
than Dean Stockwell and Yellowface?
It's better than that one.
I mean, I'll make this. I think this episode, I would put it like maybe under The Hunt, but above Quality of Mercy in that range somewhere.
Where's The Hunt?
42.
Quality of Mercy is 45. 46.
Think it's better than Person or Persons Unknown.
What was that one?
That's the Roddy McDowell episode. One
Oh,
where
right,
he's like
right,
in the zoo.
Right. See, for me, I think it's a little bit low. I think it's probably more like 42 to 46, not so much above that. But that is my personal opinion on the subject.
Which one's a Quality of Mercy? That's
That's one way-
the Asian face.
Yeah, exactly.
Showdown with Ransom of Grove. I think it's better than that. I think it's better than Quality of Mercy. Better than Kick the Can. In his image.
That was where the guy created a clone of himself or something like that.
Oh,
Where he goes back
one
to
of the
his
early
town,
episodes
yeah.
in this season, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
I did like that one. We got that at 44. I thought it was higher than that.
It
Um,
was
It
higher
was,
than
but
Well,
we
I
had
mean,
the rest of the season, or a good chunk of season 4 is above it.
Valley of the Shadow.
that's where he goes to the town and he gets held prisoner there, like the reporter or whatever. Has the
Oh
And they can
yeah,
get all the stuff.
that's
Yeah.
another one from this episode, this season.
I mean, I would put this like maybe right, like I said, I would put this maybe at 43, right below The Hunt, above Valley of the Shadow.
I could see that.
But I don't know. You
I'd
guys
say
give me your
43,
takes.
44.
Yeah.
I do think in his image was a little bit better than this one, but Valley of the Shadow. I'd
This
say
one's
it's like-
definitely better than Kick the Can for my money.
Yes. Oh, absolutely. I think myself, I'd put it at 44. But if we do 43, I'm fine with that. No, wait.
So-
Yeah.
So
43
right
is
above
pretty
In His Image, but below Valley of the Shadow.
But if we went up to 43, like you said, I'm fine with that.
Trev, what do you think?
That sounds good.
Well, no, 40. I'm gonna give you 44 or 43.
44.
44. All right.
Yeah.
So
I think it's better than Perchance to Dream.
That's too bad.
no time
And
to
Sleepy
die.
Trib gets sassy.
Damn right.
Trib just like, I need to get out of here. Okay, that works. So with that said, new number 44 is No Time Like the Past. Number 1, still Eye of the Beholder. Number 112 is of course The Trouble with Templeton. Next episode.
Oh, you're missing one.
Yep. You
Don't
missed
forget,
one.
not
You missed
I
one.
would
Yes, you
never
were.
miss any.
Yes,
You guys are
did.
crazy.
Missed one.
Number
See,
92.
Triv's not too tired. Triv's not too tired
which
to
is
talk
a
about
piano
number 92.
in.
The House.
There you go.
See, Triv's never too tired to talk about a piano in the house.
Damn
No
right.
time in the
Never
house.
too tired
no
to
time
talk
in the
about a
past house.
piano in the
Yeah,
house.
that's right.
So how do you guys because you guys are a little bit more in the know and familiar with what's to come? Do you think anything is going to more than I?
Right.
Do you think that is anything going to dethrone, or is there anything that just from what you remember is on the level to dethrone Eye of the Beholder?
There are some that have
Um,
the potential to, but I think so much of it depends on our conversations.
Well, yeah,
Yeah,
know?
Eye
I
of the
think
Beholder is such an iconic episode.
Yeah.
Nightmare at 20,000 feet could, but I doubt
Oh
that.
yeah, that's
They're-
another iconic
Mhm.
one.
I mean, it all depends. Like Living Doll is high up there on a lot of people's list, and Seventh is made up of Phantoms. It's supposed to be really good, and if I remember right, and
We could ask the same
Occurrence
question
at Owl
of what
Creek,
would-
Owl Creek Bridge. Where,
Yeah. You could even say that about the bottom too. Is there something that will dethrone?
That was my next question.
I'm
Yeah.
sure we're gonna find something like the Bewitching. But the Bewitching Pool is gonna be the one that does that, or the Black Jackets or whatever.
Yeah.
Black Jacket. Yeah.
I Dream of Jeannie is one of those ones. The Bard is another bad one. Or
I don't know. We
I
said that
don't
about
remember the
Jezebel, and it
Bard.
didn't hit the bottom. So
Well, I think, yeah, I don't know.
Maybe that was
The
probably
Bard
'cause
is
of-
like Shakespeare nonsense or whatever.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
But anyways, the next episode is a episode that Star Trek the original series actually kind of did their own spin on, but it's called The Parallel. It's season 4, episode 11, directed by Alan Crossland Jr., written by Rod Serling. Stars Stephen Forrest, Jacqueline Scott, Sherry Lee Bernard, and Frank Aliter. How do you say that last name?
Adler?
But it deals with alternate universes, which is another subject I really enjoy. So parallel universes. So
Except for when Marvel does them. Yeah. The preview looked interesting. I was intrigued.
yeah, it's space stuff. So I'm sure Jacob would be all about it. But it has a nice little
Space
opening
stuff.
narration. So
I wear space
Space
pants.
Yeah, gotta love
space
the space
pants.
Space pants.
Here's my friend Gwen Stefani. Anyways, so we'll look forward to that next week. But Triv, Jacob, awesome as always. I know Triv, you're really tired, so you want to get out of here. So I'll let you go first. Where's your content? What's your content? Who's your content? How's your content?
We don't talk about my content.
We don't talk about content.
Nope.
We don't talk
You can
about
see me here on YouTube. Next thing up is Society. It's just kind of a general discussion about the movie and its different bits and pieces and trivia and whatnot. So stop in and see that.
Triv, do we live in a society?
No, I live in
No.
a house.
Our house in the middle of a street. Our house. Something like so eat. I don't know. Jacob,
Yes,
your content is somewhere in the ether.
it is.
Still hasn't released.
It has not.
Eventually it will release at some point
That is
somewhere
the plan.
over the rainbow. Where's that at?
On YouTube at Retro Jake XY, my YouTube channel where I talk about old shit. Got a new video coming, and I will go ahead and say I am tentatively planning on releasing it on the 13th of April. I was shooting for the
Woohoo.
6th, but I don't want to get overzealous, which I tend to do. I am honing in on the end. There's a great deal of it that is complete, but I have one largest section I am working on right now, and I'm feverishly working on it. I'm hoping to have it done, and I feel very confident that by the 13th it should be released. I'm hoping that by next week or maybe the end of this week, I'll release the trailer that will concrete that. So by the time this comes out, that should be out there, concrete notice.
Cool.
Yeah. I think I said that last week too, but this time's for sure.
Exactly.
And I gave a date.
You did. So we'll see it a year from now. Okay.
Maybe.
Anyways, you can find my content at Movie Emporium. Still doing Invincible and this podcast. I'll
that,
have a couple
season
other
2?
reviews.
Is it as good as season 1?
I like it. I like it a lot, but some people don't. I don't know. It is. I think it's good. So
All that matters.
that's true. All that matters. All of the weight in gold. Anyways, with that said, that's all three of us. So we're gonna head out. We're gonna go back in the Twilight Zone. We're gonna go back in our Uranuses and stuff like that. And for myself, Triv and Jacob, we'll see you guys next time in the Twilight Zone. Peace out, motherfucker.
If there's anything that sounds good.
I'm partial to candy, but that's my wife's name, so
Did she get her peanut butter in your chocolate, or your chocolate in her peanut butter, or your peanut butter in her chocolate?
yeah.
They both have peanut butter and chocolate, and it both ends up all over the place.
Back in time.